Failure is not random. It is a silent decision you make every morning without realizing it. Today, you will discover how to change your direction with simple but non-negotiable actions. Stay until the end and you will understand why the first hour of your day defines everything. Failure is not an accident. It is a silent habit that settles in at dawn. It doesn't matter how much you want to change if every morning you keep reacting the same way. That first thought, that first action after waking up, is where your day is defined, and by extension, your destiny. Failure doesn't scream. It doesn't come with a label. It isn't dramatic. It is routine. It hides in hitting snooze, in checking social media before looking at your goals, in believing that today will be the same as yesterday. That's what makes it dangerous. You don't see it coming. You repeat it without noticing, and when you do it every day, it becomes your identity. What happens in the first 30 minutes after opening your eyes is not trivial. That is where you win or lose. Whoever starts from reaction, laziness, or disorder begins at a disadvantage, because the world does not stop. It does not wait for you to be ready. It moves forward, and it rewards those who are already in motion while others remain trapped in their minds. Success does not arrive through inspiration. It arrives through precision, through daily micro-decisions, through a clear system repeated with consistency. That is where the narrative of failure breaks, not with grand speeches, but with firm actions at the start of the day. What you decide to think, feel, and do in that first hour is your true structure. You do not need to wake up at 5 or follow someone else's routine. You need clarity, clarity of purpose, clarity of identity, clarity about what you are willing to sustain even when there is no energy. Improvising every morning, living without inner architecture. It is waking up on autopilot. It is handing your focus to chaos. That is why everything feels the same, because each day begins without direction, without intention, without power, and without structure. There is no growth, no matter how much you want it, because desire without structure turns into frustration. The next shift begins when you stop treating your morning as a formality. Your first hour is sacred. It does not belong to the world. It does not belong to noise. It belongs to you, and what you do with it either builds you or drains you. A good morning does not guarantee a perfect day, but it gives you strength to face it. It trains you to endure. It prepares you to decide with firmness. And that daily practice, sustained over time, changes everything, not by miracle, by accumulation, because when you respect that space, the world notices, but above all, you notice it yourself. Failure does not hurt immediately. It hurts slowly. It hurts when you live entire days running without direction, without focus, without awareness. Every time you allow the world to define your energy early in the day, you give away the most valuable thing you have, your will. And you do it without realizing it, because there is no immediate punishment, no alarm that sounds when you stop keeping your word to yourself. There is only that constant feeling of being internally disordered, that heaviness that doesn't come from what you do, but from what you fail to sustain. Disorder is not always visible. Many times it appears as repetitive thoughts. I'm not consistent. Something is always missing. But the root is not motivation. It is lack of structure. Failure settles in when your mornings look too much like your excuses, when you promise and don't follow through, when you think but don't act. When you desire but don't build. You don't fail because you lack ability. You fail because you haven't understood that each morning is a blank page. And if you fill it with the same lukewarm habits as always, how do you expect your life to be different? That moment right after waking up is not neutral. It is decisive. It defines the rhythm of the day. If you start with intention, your body follows. If you start with noise, your focus breaks before the day even begins. The next breakthrough comes when you understand that your brain responds to signals. It doesn't need big decisions. It needs consistency. If you wake up and the first thing you do is check social media, you are responding to the world before responding to yourself. But if you wake up, drink water, breathe, and write one action, one attitude, and one thought you will sustain or reject, you are training your mind. You are telling it who is in charge. And that is worth more than any fleeting motivation. Most people get lost searching for a big opportunity. But real transformation doesn't happen when everything aligns. It happens when you decide not to betray yourself, even when there is no applause, even when everything feels heavy. That is where character is forged. Not on great days, but on ordinary days, sustained by conscious decisions. When you take responsibility for yourself, without spectacle, without noise, just presence, that is real power. That is evolution. Change is not complicated. What's complicated is sustaining what you already decided to change. Because emotion fades, the body feels heavy, the mind doubts, and then you return to the old pattern. Not because you don't want to move forward, but because you haven't protected your direction. Because you don't have a system. Because your discipline still depends on your mood. Identity is not transformed by good intentions. It is built through conscious repetition. Every time you act like the man you are not yet, but have decided to be, you are breaking the cycle. You are erasing the old character who only postpones, who only reacts, who lives from lack. It doesn't matter if you don't feel it. It doesn't matter if your environment doesn't reflect it. What matters is that you choose to act like that man. From the morning, without negotiation, that version of you who no longer betrays himself, who doesn't need to be seen to keep his word, is not a fantasy. It is a decision. It is a practice. It is an internal emotional structure that holds him even when everything outside is falling apart. He is held by his rituals, by his affirmations, by his commitment. He doesn't wake up early because it's trendy. He does it because his word has weight, because that first act of the day, his silent declaration of integrity, and when that repeats, when that commitment becomes routine, something changes. His posture straightens. His voice becomes firm. His presence grows clearer, not because the world recognizes him, but because he has recognized himself. He is no longer begging for approval. He is building from within, solid, silent, without distractions, without getting lost in what is urgent. What makes him different is not that he never falls. It is that he does not sell himself excuses. It is that he knows who he is, and he remembers it every morning, because his morning ritual is not symbolic. It is his anchor, his guide, his boundary against chaos. No one interrupts it. It is not canceled. It is not postponed, because if he loses that moment, he loses himself, and that is no longer negotiable. Failure is easy when there is no strategy. When each day begins with what others impose, when your mind is not yours, but the man who chooses to speak to himself with truth every morning, who forgives himself without weakening, who releases what he cannot change and acts on what he can control. That man is no longer a slave to yesterday. He has cleared the ground, cut the weight, and finally walks light. Every small act he repeats becomes structure. Every firm habit becomes character. There is no miracle. There is focus. There is a promise. Today, I do not fail myself. That phrase is not pretty. It is functional. It is real. It is his. And when he keeps it, life responds, because the one who masters his morning masters his entire story. If something resonated with you, don't ignore it. Subscribe, activate the bell, like the video, and comment on how you will start tomorrow. No more excuses. No more postponing. This channel is for those who choose to build themselves. We'll see you in the next video.